Forget big-budget explosions. Forget over-the-top courtroom theatrics. This movie? 1 room, 12 men, 1 life on the line. No chase scenes, no CGI, just words. And somehow, it's more gripping than half the thrillers Hollywood churns out today. The justice system isn't perfect, the jury system isn't perfect. But in that room, we see a glimmer of hope. Why? Because reason, logic, and doubt, when given the chance, can defeat ignorance, apathy, and personal bias. Let's break it down. Who these men are, what they brought into that room, and how one juror planted a tiny seed of doubt that grew into something that could change a boy's fate. Welcome to Real Talk, where we spill the tea on movies, media, and all the madness in between, with wit, sass, and zero sugarcoating. The opening scene, a teenage boy is on trial for his life. The charge? Murdering his father. The verdict? Up to these 12 jurors. And let's be real, most of them don't even care. One guy's mad he's missing a baseball game. Another just wants to go home. A few? They walked in with their minds made up. But one juror? He's not ready to throw a kid's life away without asking a few questions first. And that's where it begins. This isn't a whodunit. We're not watching detectives gather clues. We're watching 12 regular men argue about what they think they know. The crime isn't happening outside. It's happening in their heads, in their biases, in the way they see the world. Let's look at these juror number 1, the foreperson. Who take this authority seriously and when it's challenged. That's when he gets fired up. This is my turf. Show me respect. He was a high school football coach, and you can totally see it in the way he tries to keep the room orderly. He encourages others to listen and actually helps keep the conversation going. He's not here to decide the outcome. He's here to manage the process. Juror number 2, the pushover. He's hesitant, awkward, insecure. If someone throws him a theory, he bites. But the second someone else challenges it, he switches. Classic people pleaser. But he does have a moment. He stands up to juror number 3, the angriest man in the room, and says, "You can't send someone off to die in evidence like that." A small line, but a big deal. He may not be loud, but at least he's got basic common sense when it counts. Juror number 3, daddy issues turned death sentence. This guy is a walking grudge. The second he hears it's a case of a boy killing his father, his brain goes, guilty, case closed. Why? Because he's projecting his own estranged son onto the defendant. He's here to win a fight his own kid walked away from. His personal trauma clouds everything. Justice? He's not here for that. And when the cracks start to form, when his rage starts unraveling, that final breakdown, when he realizes the other jurors are flipping, he explodes. He yells, "You're letting him slip through our fingers." And juror number 8 snaps back, "Are you his executioner? You want to see this boy die because you personally want it, not because of the facts. You're a public avenger, a sadist." Boom, that's the turning point. Juror number 3 tries to attack him, screaming, "I'll kill you." And juror number 8 calmly fires back, "You don't really mean you'll kill me, do you?" And just like that, he proves his point. People say things in anger they don't mean. Juror number 4, the stockbroker. Polished, logical, and thinks he's better than everyone else in the room. He's got a classist edge. Slums are breeding grounds for criminals, he says, completely unaware that juror number 5, who's sitting right next to him, grew up in one. To his credit, though, he eventually changes his mind, not because of emotion, but because the facts don't add up anymore. He sees the reasonable doubt, and that's enough for him. Juror number 5, not all kids from the slums are killers. He starts off quiet and unsure, leaning guilty. But when juror number 4 drops that slum equal criminal nonsense, that's when he speaks up. Because he came from the slums. And now it's personal. His entire arc is about proving that background doesn't equal guilt. He knows what it's like to be judged before you open your mouth. He makes a compelling point about the switchblade knife, the murder weapon, drawing from his own experience to explain how the wound would actually look, and why the prosecution's theory doesn't make sense. This is one of the first major cracks in the case. It's not just about evidence, it's about the assumptions we make about people, based on where they come from. Juror number 6, the quiet protector. He's not the smartest guy in the room, and he knows it. He listens, he thinks, he doesn't speak much, but when he does, it's genuine. And there's this moment, small but telling, where he stands up for juror number 9, the oldest juror, when others talk down to him. You can tell he's been that guy before, the one nobody takes seriously. So he refuses to let someone else be treated that way. Juror number 7, baseball over a boy's life. You ever meet someone who just doesn't care? That's this guy. He's got zero interest in justice. He just wants to get out fast so he doesn't miss the first pitch. A kid's fate? Whatever. His priorities are literally nachos and a game. He switches his vote not because he's convinced, but because he's bored. Literally watches the votes shift and thinks, well, I guess not guilty is winning now. Juror 11 calls him out. If you want to vote not guilty, then do it because you believe the man is not guilty, not because you've had enough. And if you think he is guilty, then vote that way. Or don't you have the guts to do what you think is right? Juror number 7 tries to come back at him with some America First superiority talk. But Juror 11, an immigrant, doesn't back down. And surprise, surprise, he caves. Juror number 8, an architect, a father, patient, and compassion. The one man who actually thinks, but does it all make sense? Enter Henry Fonda as juror number 8, the guy who calmly says, we can't just assume guilt. Let's talk about it first. He wants to go through every piece of evidence before sending a kid to the electric chair, and immediately, everyone hates him. He doesn't yell, he doesn't force his opinion, he just asks questions. Now, let's be real. Not all his questions are based strictly on fact. Some come from empathy, like when he says, the boy's only 18. Sure, being young doesn't automatically mean you're innocent, but he's appealing to their humanity. Maybe 18 is too young to understand consequences, or maybe it's too young to die. He's trying to stir up some compassion, some pity. He also calls out the public defender for barely trying. And he's not wrong. Public defenders are often overworked and underpaid. They don't have time to care, not like the fancy lawyers in nice suits. So maybe the kid never stood a chance. And what starts as one tiny crack in their certainty becomes a flood of doubt. If one man can change the course of a conversation, what else can change? That's the question that lingers long after the credits roll. His core belief: no jury can declare a man guilty unless it's sure. And when he says, wherever you run to it, prejudice always obscure the truth. He's not just talking about the trial, he's talking about life. Juror number 9, the old man who saw everything. He's the oldest juror in the room, intelligent, compassion, and 100% done with racism. He's the second to vote not guilty, not because he's convinced the boy is innocent, but because it takes a great deal of courage to stand alone, and he wants to support that courage. He brings up the critical point that one of the witnesses, the old man with the limp, might not be lying, but might have just believed what he thought he heard. He wanted attention for once in his life. Maybe he just wanted to matter. Juror number 9 relates to that. He knows what it feels like to be dismissed and invisible, to have no one listen because you're old and past your prime. Juror number 10, the racist. No logic needed. He owns a garage. He thinks he's righteous. He thinks he's protecting real Americans. But we all know this guy, the type who sees those people as criminals by default. From the start, he's spewing garbage. These people are dangerous. They are wild and born liars. Juror number 8 claps back immediately. He was angry and wild because he was hit on the head by somebody once a day, every day since he was 5. And then comes the moment. You don't believe the boy's story? How come you believe the woman's? She's one of them too, isn't she? Oh, snap! See, juror number 10 had no problem believing the woman who testified, even though she's also ethnic. And juror number 8's jab? Pure irony. Because Mr. Racist just accidentally trusted someone from those people he claims to hate. It doesn't matter what the evidence says. His entire argument? You know how they are. And for the longest time, no one challenges him. Until they do. And when they do, it's one of the most satisfying moments in the film. Watching him spiral, realizing no one's listening anymore. He's completely alone in his bigotry. He crumbles into irrelevance. That's cinema. And the ultimate irony? When he sneers, he don't even speak good English. It's juror 11, the immigrant, who calmly corrects him. He doesn't speak good English. Iconic. Juror number 11, the immigrant with more integrity than most. A watchmaker, European, soft-spoken, And at first, no one respects him because, well, he's not from here. But turns out, he has more respect for democracy and the justice process than half the room. When juror number 7 flips his vote just to get out faster, juror number 11 holds him to it. If you want to vote not guilty, then do it because you are convinced, not because you've had enough. He might be quiet, but he's principled and fearless. Juror number 12, the ad man with no spine. This guy changes his vote more times than someone picking a flavor at an ice cream shop. He's slick, shallow, distracted by his job, and just wants to wrap this up. He doesn't really believe anything. He's just here because he has to be. Now, breaking down the evidence, how reason defeated bias. The whole case hinges on 3 things. A switchblade knife the store claimed was rare, until juror number 8 pulls out an identical one he bought in the same neighborhood. A witness with bad eyesight who claimed to have seen the murder through a passing train, and a weak alibi and testimony from an old man with a crippled leg. But one by one, these so-called facts fall apart. That knife? Not as unique as the prosecution claimed. The wounds angles? Questionable. The woman who claimed she saw the murder? She had bad eyesight. So, was she even wearing her glasses when it happened? Or did she just think she saw it? And that's the point. None of this is about proving the boy is innocent. It's about proving reasonable doubt. And once that seed is planted, game over. Now it's 11 jurors voting not guilty. Only juror number 3 remains. And now, the tables have turned. Juror number 8 looks him in the eye. You're alone. Everyone watches him, waiting. He has no arguments left, just anger, just pain. He folds. He tears up the photo of his son, the one who ran away from his violent temper. And just like that, he votes not guilty. He lost the fight just like he lost his son. And in the final moments, as the jurors quietly file out, juror number 8 picks up the jacket for him, because even after all that hate, he still shows compassion. The rain has stopped. The room is calm. It's over. The power of simplicity. One room, no frills, maximum impact, no car chases, no flashbacks, one single set. Yet it's more intense than most blockbusters today. Because great writing and great acting, you don't need CGI or a $200 million budget. Hollywood, take notes. Here's the wild part. 12 Angry Men wasn't even a hit when it came out. Yeah, you heard that right. Released in 1957, it flopped at the box office. Why? Because it was too different. It had no stars, no action, no spectacle, just one room and a bunch of men talking. But over time, it became a classic. The film was adapted from a 1954 teleplay by Reginald Rose, and Sidney Lumet, only 33 at the time, shot the movie in just 21 days, with intense rehearsals and lighting that subtly shifted as the tension grew. It was a masterclass in directing on a budget. And Henry Fonda? Not only did he star in it, he produced it, with his own money, because he believed in the story that much. The final verdict: hope for the system? Hope for cinema? So, does the movie say the justice system is perfect? Nope. But does it say that maybe, just maybe, the right voices in the right room can change everything? Yeah. One man refused to take things at face value. One man challenged the system, and that's what gives us hope. As for cinema, 12 Angry Men proves you don't need excess to make a classic. One room, one conversation, one unforgettable movie. We are human, and we can't deny that most of the time we make judgments based on emotion, not fact. We let bias call the shots, and we decide people's fates without even realizing it. That's not just courtroom drama, that's society today. People take sides, they don't listen, they react. Some learn, some never will. And that's why this movie never out of date. It's a timeless study of human psychology. A war, not of weapons, but of opinions. So, 12 Angry Men, a courtroom drama or something way bigger? A depressing look at bias or a hopeful look at change? Maybe both. But one thing's for sure. It's proof that when great writing meets great acting, you don't need anything else. So what do you think? Does this movie still hit as hard today? Or am I just overhyping a bunch of guys sweating in a room? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me for more real talk.